Hi, good afternoon. This is Marissa Shackleton, and this month's From the Experts. I'll give everyone a couple minutes to tune in here. We're a few minutes before 12, and then we'll get started. It looks like we have a few people joining. In just another minute, we'll get started right at noon. All right, good afternoon. My name is Marissa Shackleton. I am the Executive Director at the Elliott Lewis Center in Wellesley, Massachusetts. The Elliott Lewis Center is a comprehensive care center for patients with NMO and MS. I work closely with our physicians, Dr. Joshua Katz, Dr. Andrew Booley, and Dr. Ellen Lottie, as well as our nurses, social worker, research team, on-site infusion suite, and our administrative staff. I've been working with the Elliott Lewis Center for almost 10 years now. I work with patients with NMO and MS, and I'm active with the National MS Society, the National Infusion Center Association, and I am a national speaker on access, reimbursement, infusion centers, and general practice management. I am particularly passionate about patient care, access to treatment, and affordable treatment. It's my goal to educate both patients and practitioners to make sure that patients can access the best medications for their disease and at a cost that's affordable. So that brings us to our topic today. Today we're going to be discussing health insurance and how to navigate and access treatment. I'm going to start by going through kind of health insurance 101 and a bit about access to treatment and financial assistance options. But before we get started, I want to make sure to thank the Sumaira Foundation for NMO for having me as a speaker on the From the Experts Facebook Live series. This programming is made possible thanks to a patient education grant from Viela Bio. Viela Bio is dedicated to the development and commercialization of novel life-changing medicines for patients with a wide range of autoimmune and severe inflammatory diseases. Their approach to drug discovery is aimed at providing targeted treatments for improved outcomes for the thousands of patients who have few or no therapeutic options. For additional information about Viela Bio, please visit vielabio.com. So thank you to Viela Bio for making this program possible. And we'll get started here. In order to understand insurance, we first need to understand the types of insurance and the terminology that's used by insurance companies. So insurance can be provided through the government, as in Medicare or Medicaid plans, or through your employer for a commercial plan, or you can also purchase insurance through the healthcare marketplace. The common terms we hear when discussing health insurance are benefits. So the healthcare that is covered under the health insurance plan. They say, what are your benefits? Well, your benefits are determined by your specific plan. Is your medication for NMO a covered benefit with your health insurance plan? Most often when you sign up for a plan, you can learn about your benefits, hopefully in advance of selecting a plan, or if something comes up along the way and you're already in a plan year with your insurance plan, you can call or visit their patient site to see what benefits you have included in your health insurance plan. Another term we hear a lot is deductible. And the deductible is the amount that you pay for your healthcare services before the insurance pays. So it's based on your benefit plan year. Most people have a calendar plan year, so it resets when the year changes. Some people have benefits that might reset at another time during the year. But you have a deductible. Most plans have a deductible that you have to meet throughout the year before your insurance plan will pick up. So it could be as low as $200. It could be as high as several $1,000s. And some benefits might include that the insurance company might pay a certain percent until your deductible is met. So that deductible is a cost that the patient pays before the health insurance plan covers the full amount. Copay is a term that you probably are quite familiar with. Copay is the amount that you pay when you see your healthcare provider. So you might see your primary care physician or your neurologist and be charged a $25 or a $40 copay for that visit. This is different than the copay programs we're going to talk about a little later, but it's important for us to have a basic knowledge of these terms that come up frequently when we talk about health insurance. If you have the option to choose your plan, you may receive it from your employer, and they may have a few different plans or a few different carriers that you can choose from. You want to look at those deductibles that we were just talking about. If you have regular MRIs and you receive treatment for a chronic disease, you may meet that deductible every year, and you can assume that you're going to pay that deductible, that $500, that $5,000, whatever that amount is, throughout the year, each year. So with that in mind, is it worth paying a higher monthly cost for a lower deductible? Or is it worth paying a lower monthly cost, but you have a higher deductible? So you want to look at those costs annually and not just choose a plan that might be the least expensive at a certain time at that month. You want to think about the whole year. What are you going to spend this year, assuming you're going to have an MRI or you receive a biologic therapy? That can be quite expensive as well. So that's important to think if you have an option in choosing your commercial insurance plan. If you do not have an option for insurance through your employer, you may be selecting an insurance plan through the Health Connector. You can visit the Health Connector online to see what options are available to you. And if you're eligible for any subsidies, there are discounts available for patients that meet certain requirements. So you may be eligible for a discounted insurance plan through the Health Connector. This can be challenging to navigate, so many different options, and they actually offer in-person or phone appointments with application counselors. So this is a free service that the Health Connector offers, and reach out to them to get some guidance in comparing plans and make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Definitely take advantage of these experts. If you have government insurance, like we briefly touched on, the Medicare or Medicaid, you also have insurance counselors that are available to you for your options. They're called SHINE counselors, SHINE. It stands for Serving the Health Insurance Needs of Everyone. And these counselors are specific to government insurance. They can assist in exploring Medicare or Medicaid options. They can review your existing coverage, provide benefit comparisons, assist you with applications and enrollments, and review your eligibility for financial assistance. So you can speak with one of these counselors and say, I'm treated with this medication for NMO. Is this covered under this plan? Do I need a supplemental insurance? What do I need to make sure that I'm covered and have the lowest out-of-pocket cost? So how does this specifically relate to NMO? That's what we're here to talk about. And the approved medications for NMO, there are 3 of them that are considered biologics. So biologics are medications that are considered more complex and are typically more expensive. They often require an authorization from the insurance company in order to be approved and administered. So that means the insurance company decides if they will cover the medication or not. And if they'll approve it right away, if it's included in one of those covered benefits we talked about earlier, that's great. But if not, you still have options. I believe that treatment decisions should be made between the prescriber and the patient and not dictated by the insurance company. So I'd like to share some ways with you and how you can access the medication that's right for you that may not be a covered benefit under your insurance plan. So if both you and your prescriber are in agreement on your treatment, you both need to advocate for approval from the insurance company. So both the prescriber's office and the patient can advocate to the insurance for coverage. So many manufacturers also assist in this. They can provide letters to you, letters of medical necessity or patient advocacy letters to help with the approval process. So you definitely need to be your own best advocate. Reach out to the insurance company directly and advocate for that treatment approval. The last thing the insurance companies want is to pay more money. So while these biologics are expensive, the risk of you not being treated is a much higher cost to them if it would result in needing to go to the emergency room or see your physician more frequently. So helping the insurance company understand that treatment with this medication will actually keep you healthier and lower their costs is always an important factor to bring up when you're speaking with the insurance company. So what happens when they're denying coverage? Well, there's usually an option for your physician to speak with another physician at the insurance company. They call this a peer-to-peer. It's typically the last attempt for coverage. If this is unsuccessful, you may be able to receive free medication through the manufacturer. There are free drug programs for patients who are considered uninsured, underinsured, or who have no coverage. So there are many routes. Your prescriber will send the prescription out typically through a hub. So the manufacturer will receive the prescription and it will go to your insurance company and they'll see what your benefits are. Is it covered? What's the cost to you? And are you eligible for financial assistance? So that first step that we're dealing with is it covered? And if it is covered, does it require authorization? So does it require additional documentation from your prescriber's office saying you have a confirmed diagnosis and you are eligible for this medication? That is the most often the next step after the prescription. And then we go from that authorization request to, is it approved? And if it's not, how can we advocate for you to get the medication? So you can call the insurance company, your prescriber's office can call or submit a formal appeal. And then that last layer we have is that peer-to-peer, which is often an option, having your prescriber speak with a physician at the insurance company for approval. And typically you're successful somewhere in those steps, hopefully fewer steps than more. And if you make it to the end and you are still denied coverage, then the manufacturer may provide free medication to you as considered uninsured, underinsured, or a no coverage. So they would say your insurance company will not cover the product and you may be eligible for free medication. So what if you are covered under your insurance benefit, but it's expensive? We said these biologics are expensive medications and you may have a large deductible or an out-of-pocket expense. So there are financial assistance options available. If you have commercial insurance, so insurance that is provided by your employer or purchased on the marketplace, you may be eligible for a Copay program. So we talked about copays as that $25 or $40 payment that you make when you go to your physician's office. So this is different. It's very confusing that this is called a Copay program, but it covers more than your copay. It may cover the entire cost of the medication. It may cover everything up to and leave you with a $5 or a $10 balance, but this covers a large amount of the cost of the medication, depending on what type of medication, if it's an infusion or an injection. If it's an infusion, there's also the cost for the nurse to administer the medication. In a state like Massachusetts, where I am, we cannot accept assistance for administration, so patients do have to pay that cost, but that is significantly lower than the overall cost of the medication. Other states are allowed to accept financial assistance for administration, so your cost could be even lower. So there are generally not income requirements for these assistance programs for commercially insured patients that are run through the manufacturer. It's typically the requirement is that you are a commercially insured patient with a confirmed diagnosis and you meet the criteria set by the FDA for receiving the medication. The Sumaira Foundation has a great therapies chart on their website that includes information about the approved therapies as well as links to the copay programs. So if you are receiving one of the therapies or considering starting one of the therapies, you can look at their copay program and see what type of financial assistance you would be qualified for. If you don't have commercial insurance, you have government insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, you are not eligible for these programs, the specific copay programs. But you are eligible for other patient assistance foundations to help with the cost of the medication. There may be income requirements for these assistance funds. You can speak with your provider or the medication manufacturer for some financial assistance options. Many assistance foundations have not previously provided funds to patients with NMO, but that is starting to change. The Assistance Fund, so an assistance fund, it is called the Assistance Fund, they opened their funding to patients with NMO just recently. So educational and advocacy platforms like this presentation help bring attention to the need for more financial assistance for patients with NMO. So if you don't meet the criteria for the copay programs, there are still other options. The medication should at no time be unaffordable so that you can't receive treatment. There are options through the manufacturer and through additional financial assistance programs so that you can receive your treatment at a cost that is affordable for you. The medications should be accessible. They're here to help you, and I'm hoping that some of this information that I'm providing will help you access the medication at an affordable cost. So that kind of covers my basics on Insurance 101. How does the process of a prescription work? What is an authorization? And what type of financial assistance programs are offered to patients? So at this time, I'm gonna open it up for questions. I'll remind you, I'm not a clinician, so I can't answer any clinical questions. But if you have questions about prior authorizations or referrals or appeals or financial assistance programs, I am happy to address those. I see a question here from Sherry. Is SHINE nationwide? Yes. So SHINE counselors for Medicare patients, that is a nationwide program. You can go on to the Medicare site or search for SHINE counselors, and they will give you SHINE counselors in your location. I believe they will do both phone and I'm unsure about COVID if they're doing any in-person appointments, but they are available to you. I don't see any other questions here yet, but I'll wait a couple minutes and see if we have any other questions. While I'm waiting here for other questions, it's worth mentioning that I briefly touched on what underinsured patients are. So if you have Medicare only, you are only covered at 80%. You may be considered underinsured. So you're worried about covering that 20% of the medication cost. You may actually qualify for free medication because you are underinsured at that 80%. We're looking for 100% coverage to be considered covered patients. Question from Nikki, can seronegative patients receive the 3 FDA-approved meds? So this is clinical, and this is entirely with your physician. I don't have, I'm not able to give advice on that, but speak with your physician about whether one of the medications is appropriate for you. A question from Sumaira, what happens if the patient cannot pay their medical bills? Does it go straight to collections? That's a great question, and it depends. So if a patient cannot pay medical bills, you may be able to still enroll in these copay programs. So let's say you're watching me talk today and you had a treatment last week and you realize, I didn't know about these copay programs. Can I still enroll in them? Oftentimes, yes, there is a window after treatment that you can still enroll in the programs. It may be a few weeks, it may be 6 months, it may be up to a year. But speak with your prescriber's office, your infusion center, or the manufacturer directly to see if you are eligible for these copay programs to be retroactive. You may also be eligible for some of these assistance funds that you weren't aware of before. And the assistance funds not only cover the cost of your NMO medication, but they can also cover MRI costs or other out-of-pockets, other medication that you have. You are eligible for it based on your diagnosis, not based on the medication specifically. And then let's say you have exhausted all options for financial assistance. Do your bills then go to collections? It depends. It depends on the facility. So if you are working with a hospital or a private center, you need to speak with their billing department and see if they can do a reduced cost for you or a payment plan. Sometimes there is a compassionate discount, and they'll make a courtesy adjustment for you if you cannot afford the medical bills. It's always best to look at these costs in advance before you receive treatment, but it can be looked at retroactively as well. Other questions? Is there a resource or website that compiles national patient assistance programs? So I am unsure if there is one specific to NMO. I know that the Sumaira Foundation has some resources on their website. I know that the National Infusion Center Association has resources on their website as well. And those would be for infusion-specific medications. Really any NMO foundation will have assistance resources on their site, but I don't know if there's a list of all of them combined in the same place. That would be great. Cheryl asks, what are the qualifications for copay assistance? So the copay assistance qualifications vary by medication. So the best answer to your question would be to go to the Sumaira Foundation website, and on their site there's a nice grid of the approved medications and how they're administered, what side effects might be, and then at the bottom it says copay programs. So for each of the manufacturers, they have their own rules for copay programs. Generally, the qualification for copay program assistance is that you have commercial insurance and a confirmed diagnosis, and you meet the criteria set out by the FDA and the manufacturer for receiving the medication. So that you have a diagnosis of NMO and you meet their criteria, you have commercial insurance, you have Harvard Pilgrim, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Tufts, and you are requesting assistance. I'm pulling up that resource here so I can, it's really excellent that the foundation is put together. There's a question here. Is this for the US or Canada? This is the programs for the US. So based on the United States health insurance programs, they have the health insurance plans have these support programs available. I do not have information on what international support programs are available. So if you go to the Sumaira Foundation's homepage, under the menu, there's a therapies chart. And this therapies chart is what I've been referencing. And it has the 3 approved medications. their pharmacology, delivery frequency, dosage, common side effects, and then their manufacturers, so Alexion, Viela Bio, and Genentech, and what their copay assistance programs are. And there are links straight to their programs. So if you are receiving one of these medications or considering receiving one of these medications, you can click on those links and see if you are eligible for their copay assistance programs. Your provider's office also might have information. So at our center, we have an infusion coordinator who manages our new enrollments for all infusion medications. So if a patient is starting a new medication, we review their benefits, what is their health insurance going to cover, and once we see what their out-of-pocket cost is going to be, we speak with the patient and either enroll them directly in the copay program or provide them the information for them to enroll in the copay program. So it's something that might be managed by your provider's office or your infusion center, or if they're one and the same like our office is, it's something that we handle directly in the office. We want to make sure that our patients always understand their coverage and what their out-of-pocket cost is before they're even scheduled for the medication. If one of our patients is not eligible for the copay program based on what we talked about earlier, government insurance, we will try to help them find third-party funding like the Assistance Fund or the PAN Foundation. Do you have any advice for patients who are seeking life insurance but are nervous because of their pre-existing conditions? Unfortunately, life insurance is not one of my areas of expertise. So I apologize, I don't have a good answer for that. Perhaps your provider's office would be the best place to start, or some advocacy organizations might have some information on that as well. Other questions that I can answer here? Other questions here. The Sumaira asked, what is the difference between HMO and PPO? So there are many different types of insurance plans. So as we, you may have Blue Cross, but your Blue Cross might not be the same as mine. We might have an HMO, a PPO, or an EPO, and it comes down to, does the patient need a referral in order to see a specialist, or can you see any physician you like at any time? So if you require a referral, your primary care physician needs to approve that you're seeing a specialist. If it's in network, you may not need a referral. So if you are part of if your PCP and your specialist are part of the same network, then you can see physicians freely. If you want to see someone out of network, so perhaps you're seeing a physician out of state or who's affiliated with a different hospital, your primary care needs to approve that through your health insurance plan. So they say that they are referring you to see a different specialist. And for chronic disease, this happens a lot because there may not be as many NMO specialists in their network, so they're willing to send you out to see a specialist that is part of a different network. Nikki asks, are there any specific recommendations for Medicaid recipients? So if you can have straight Medicaid in Massachusetts. You may have straight Mass Health. You could have a managed Medicaid plan, or you could have Medicare as a primary and Medicaid as a supplement. Any of those situations are considered to be government-sponsored insurance. So those are not eligible for the copay assistance plans through the manufacturers, but they are eligible for third-party financial assistance. Medicaid specifically, you would need to see what your benefit is. What is Medicaid covering? I don't know what Medicaid's coverage is for the 3 approved therapies for NMO. I do know that it takes Medicaid a little bit longer to get products on formulary. So if a product is approved today by the FDA, it may take a couple weeks for a commercial insurance plan to start approving the medication. The same for Medicare, but for Medicaid, they only add new medications to their covered benefits a couple times a year. So it's up to each state. But I know for Mass Health, it takes a bit. It could take 6 months for them to approve the medication. So during that time, any prescriptions for patients with Mass Health may be eligible for free drug or bridge dosing. It depends what the plans are with the specific therapy, but they may have a starter pack or a free dose that they can get you started so that you're not waiting for Mass Health or Medicaid to put the medication on formulary. During that time, you're not just untreated. Other questions? Please feel free to keep sending them. So while I'm waiting here for any other questions, I'm back to that therapies chart. I wish I knew how to put this on the screen, but I'll link it in the comments at the end. Actually, I think I can link it right now. Okay, so I added the link to this chart in the comments. And since Viela Bio is the sponsor of this program, I've taken a look onto their site for Copay Assistance programs. And they have a whole page of resources to help you access and manage treatment. So they have a patient support program brochure as well as a copay fact sheet. And the copay fact sheet provides information on who is eligible for the insurance program. So for their copay assistance program, excuse me. So to be eligible for their copay assistance program, you need to be prescribed treatment for the FDA-approved indication only. You're commercially insured, a resident of the U.S., under the care of a physician in the U.S., and your insurance plan has approved the treatment. So those are pretty straightforward. We've addressed all of those. That is what I expect to be the criteria for a copay program. You are not eligible if you're receiving the treatment for any other condition aside from the FDA approved. If you have government health care like Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE. If the insurance covers the whole cost, if the insurance covers the whole cost, that's wonderful, and then there would be no need for the copay program. Or if it's restricted. So each of these programs has case managers, and they can help determine if your state allows the copay assistance programs. Like we talked about before, the administration is not permitted in Massachusetts, but coverage for the medication is an option in Massachusetts. Oh, here's a great question. Sumaira asks, why does it always appear as if the insurance companies deny no matter what you ask for? Well, it's because they don't want to pay anything. They stay in business by paying out less money. So they don't want to cover expensive therapies. They make deals with the manufacturers on putting certain medications as a preferred product, and others are lower on their tiers. So often when you're asking for an expensive medication to be approved, they want you to try something that's less expensive first, or they will just flat out deny it and say it's not part of their policy, it's not a covered benefit. But then we go through that appeal process that we talked about before. So you call the insurance company and advocate for yourself. Your provider's office or your infusion center should also call and ask how can they submit a written appeal. That often includes a authorization request form. So it includes your dates of diagnosis, other medications you've previously tried and failed, other medications that you can't have because of concomitant conditions, other information about your disease course specifically that would help kind of boost your case to the insurance company that this medication is right for you. They would include any notes or labs or MRIs that are relevant and kind of send that nice little packet off to the insurance company and say, okay, you said no before, but these are all of the reasons that the patient really needs this medication. And like I said earlier, my favorite line to use with the insurance company is that if the patient doesn't receive this medication, what happens? So this medication might cost X, but a trip to the emergency room is incredibly expensive. If the patient needs to receive emergency treatment, that is much more expensive than this medication that we're asking for. So you always have that to kind of use that as a card to play with the insurance company. I do agree. It always seems like they say no no matter what you ask for, and then you have to ask again and exhaust all of your options. That is a large part of what our team here at the Elliott Lewis Center spends our time on. Our infusion coordinator, clinical assistant, and our administrative coordinator spend a great deal of time appealing to the insurance company, saying these patients really need this MRI. They really need this disease modifying therapy. And this is why, and here is all of the information you've requested. And I am going to send it to you every day until we get an approval. It takes a lot of persistence. It takes persistence and sending the appropriate information. So I am by no means advocating for everyone to receive all the treatments. But for patients, when a patient and a prescriber have agreed that a medication is the best route for a patient, then these tools need to be used in order to obtain an authorization and help the patient receive their medication. Another question here, do all insurance companies cover ambulance rides, or does it depend on your plan? When I had Blue Cross Blue Shield several years ago, I paid $1,000 for an ambulance ride. Well, that is a hefty bill. So I think I don't have a black and white answer for this. I do think it depends on your plan. I think it also depends on what type of ambulance it is and where it's originating from. So I know that some towns have ambulance services that cover rides for their residents at no cost. But if it was somebody who was an out of town visitor and they were in the ambulance, then they would receive a bill. So it depends if you're receiving an ambulance ride from somebody that's in from a company that's a town based, like the Wellesley Fire Department. You know, I'm here in Wellesley. Did they transport somebody that lives in Wellesley, or did they call an advanced life support service or a basic life support service from somewhere else? And it's a commercial company that will be sending a bill. It depends on your insurance, unfortunately, on what they're going to cover. And the hope is that you won't need an ambulance ride or emergency care if you are following a treatment plan with your physician. But it is emergency because it's called that for a reason, that it happens unexpectedly, and unfortunately it can be very expensive. Let me make sure I've addressed all these questions that have come in so far. It looks like I've gotten to everyone's question at this point. I'll give a couple more minutes for additional questions. So this webcast will be saved and available for future viewing, as well as the links to the Sumaira Foundation, the therapies chart I've mentioned numerous times, and my information can be found at the Elliott Lewis Center website. So Elliott Lewis, ELLIOTLEWISMS.org, and my contact information is there as well if there are any follow-up questions that I can help with. I think if there are no other questions, then we'll wrap up here. Another thank you to the there's one other question here. My insurance company is in deny because she's terminal mode. Is this actually a thing? I have not heard this, and I would call the insurance company directly yourself and see, advocate for yourself, ask your provider to advocate, and see if you can overturn a denial. You can always ask for an appeal. What is the appeal process? In the beginning, we talked about these health insurance terms, and sometimes you need to speak their language in order to get what you need. So if they are denying, ask, how can I appeal this? Is there an option for a peer-to-peer? That's when your physician can speak with a physician at the insurance company to advocate for you. So I would utilize those options, those avenues first. Okay, and with that, I will again thank the Sumaira Foundation and Viela Bio for sponsoring this session of From the Experts. Thank you for considering me an expert in navigating the insurance labyrinth. It is certainly a labyrinth and a puzzle, and it changes constantly. But my hope is that you've learned something throughout this 40 minutes, some tools that you can use, hopefully to get you greater access to treatment and affordable access. So thank you for tuning in, and have a great afternoon.